verdict, you may bring the jury.
Hey, you guys. I'm switching over to share screen with you guys. Give me 2 seconds. This is wild. How long did they deliberate for? Does anybody know? Not long. What do you guys think in the chat? Guilty, not guilty, hung jury. What do you guys think? This leads me to believe it's either guilty or hung jury. That's what I'm going with. I was not expecting it this soon. Hey, everybody. Can you guys hear me, see me? This is wild. I'm minimizing myself to the fullest degree because I want to be able to see Alec, the judge. Let me put me down right over there. Oh, this is so great. I can't even believe it was that quick. I don't think the state proved their case. So if it's a guilty, I'm going to be mind blown. Honestly, because I just feel like even when we talked last night, there was way too many people that was like, yeah, I'm not convinced.
Thank you. Madam Florien, if you'll stand for me. Have you reached a verdict?
Yes, sir, we have.
Is it unanimous?
Yes, sir, it is.
All right, if you will pass it up to the clerk, who will pass it to me. And you may be seated.
I know, me too.
Defendant will rise. Madam Clerk, you may publish the verdict starting with the back, not with the, let's see, tell you again. Starting with the back, flipping them over one by one.
Docket number 2022 GS 15-00592, the State of South Carolina, County of Colleton, in the Court of General Sessions in the term of 2022, July, the State versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh, defendant, indictment for murder, SC Code 16-3-0010, CDR Code 0116. Okay. Guilty verdict. Signed by the forelady, 3-2-23. Docket number 2022-GS-15-00593, the State of South Carolina, County of Colleton, in the Court of General Sessions, the July term of 2022. The State versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh, defendant. Indictment for murder, SC Code 16-3-0010, CDR Code 0116. Verdict, guilty. Signed by the forelady. Date 3-2-23. Docket number 2022-GS15-00595. The State of South Carolina, County of Colleton, Court of General Sessions, July term 2022. The State versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh, defendant. Indictment for possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime. SC Code -16-23-0490. CDR Code 0549. Verdict, guilty. Signed by the foreperson of the jury. date 3/2/23. Docket number 2022 GS-15-00594. The State of South Carolina, County of Colleton, Court of General Sessions, July term 2022. The State versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh, defendant. Indictment for possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime. SC Code 16-23-0490. CDR Code 0549. Verdict, guilty. Signed by the foreperson of the jury, 3/2/23.
Buster's crying. Well, he's not.
Madam Forelady and members of the jury, if that is the verdict of each and every juror, please let it be known by raising your right hands.
He's tear-eyed.
All right, thank you. Any individual polling requested?
He is crying.
Madam Clerk, you'll need to individually poll the jury according to their juror numbers.
Number 193. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 254.
Yes.
Is this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 326. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 530. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is this your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 544.
Yes.
Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 572. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 578. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 589. Was this your verdict? Is it still your verdict? Juror 630. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 729. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 826. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 864. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Your Honor, the jury has been polled.
Thank you. The jury has been polled and the verdict is a unanimous verdict. If you will bring the alternate juror out and have her have a seat in the audience, please.
Okay, Sherry, I see that you said Buster had his middle finger up, but he didn't. Buster was like this. So I do want to say that Buster was like this. I'm shocked. Holy crap.
You can stand there or you can sit back there, whatever you prefer. Okay. Are there any post-trial motions?
None from the state, Your Honor.
We would just renew our previously argued motions for a directed verdict, and at this, on the grounds, on those grounds, we would make a motion for a mistrial and to set aside the verdict.
By the state, response.
Your Honor, based on our previous arguments, we would submit that the case properly went to the jury and the verdict is proper, and we rely on those arguments.
We've been here now 28 days, first few days of jury selection, and the remainder receiving testimony, an overwhelming amount of testimony and evidence that was presented to the jury for the jury's consideration. As I indicated to the jury during the jury charge, or the charge on the law, that this was a matter solely for the jury to determine. The court found at the end of the state's case that there's sufficient evidence to find the defendant guilty if the evidence was believed by the jury. Likewise, at the end of the defense's case, when the motion was renewed, the court found that the evidence was sufficient for the jury to find the defendant guilty. The jury has now considered the evidence for a significant period of time, and the evidence of guilt is overwhelming, and I deny the motion. Mr. Murdaugh, you now having been found guilty of 2 counts of murder involving your wife and your son, 2 counts of possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime, the burden now comes upon the court to impose a sentence. Given the lateness of the hour and the victim's rights that must be taken into consideration and complied with under the Victim's Bill of Rights, and consider what I would anticipate to be a number of people who might have something to say regarding sentencing, we will defer sentencing to a later date. Of course, the minimum sentence for murder is 30 years. The maximum sentence is life imprisonment. As to each count, and on the weapons charge, the sentence is up to 5 years, or 5 years, which has to be concurrent if a life sentence is imposed. When would you all like to reconvene for sentencing? I would like to give everyone an adequate opportunity to prepare for it.
State will be ready at 9:30 in the morning, Your Honor.
We could do it at 9:30 tomorrow morning also.
All right. The defendant is remanded to the custody of the Colleton County Sheriff's Department.
He's looking at Buster. He's talking to Bus.
And he may be taken away.
Wait, there's the jurors. Were we allowed to just see them? There is, I guess. It's over.
Madam Floor Lady and members of the jury, I want to thank you on behalf of the citizens of the state of South Carolina and your fellow citizens of Colleton County. You did not volunteer for this service. You were called upon by being summoned to appear, and Providence have brought you to this moment in time and these weeks in time. I know that all of you have been here at great sacrifice, particularly the juror whose job was on the line until a miracle happened, I guess, that allowed him to be able to leave rather than leave after 2 or 3 weeks. But I want to thank each one of you all individually and collectively. It's not often that you're called upon to sit in judgment of the actions of your fellow man, but you all responded and gave due consideration to the evidence. I will make no comment now as to the extent or the overwhelming nature of the evidence, but certainly the verdict that you've reached is supported by the evidence. circumstantial evidence, direct evidence, all of the evidence pointing to only one conclusion as the conclusion that you all reached. So I applaud you all for, as a group and as a unit and individually, evaluating the evidence and coming to a proper conclusion as you saw the law, as you saw the facts. Now that you've served for the next year, you're not eligible to serve again. Now, of course, many people never get called upon, but you're not eligible for the next year, and for 2 additional years, you can be exempted from service because no person is required to serve on jury duty in this court more often than once every 3 years. Tomorrow morning at 9:30, we will reconvene for sentencing. You all have no role in that because that's solely up to the judge, to me. You're welcome to come back if you want to and be a part of the audience, if you like. I also want to thank the alternate juror who was locked away in a room by herself for these hours, who's hung in there during that period of time. I want to thank you as well. Madam Clerk, what do you have to tell your jurors?
Thank you for your service and what the judge said as well. And I think we can release them tonight and bring them back in the morning.
No, they're off jury duty. They can come back if they like. And you don't have to if you don't want to. Typically, I've seen jurors wanting to see the end result of a case once they've invested a lot into it. It's really an amazing thing with juries. Quite often, at the start of the case, jurors are really like, whoa, why am I here? I wish I wasn't selected. But as time passes and the jurors become invested and really committed to the case and committed to seeing it through, and are very disappointed when they are not able to see it to a conclusion. And then along the way of serving, you end up finding out quite a bit about our judicial system and learning quite a bit, about human nature for sure, but also about the presentation of evidence and hearing from expert witnesses and really learning a lot of things that you'll be able to take with you when you leave jury duty. And to Madam Forelady, I don't know if you were hesitant initially or not, but you have stepped up to the plate and done a great job of leading the jury as well. And thank all of you. So, the jury is dismissed. Now, one thing before you go, of course, we have invested a lot in maintaining the privacy of the jury, of each one of you. And you are free at this point to discuss the case with anyone. And given the high-profile nature of the case, I'm certain that the many people in the media will probably want to communicate with you, but they have no means of contacting you because under order that I issued, the identity of the jurors must be kept private. And if you decide that you want to speak with anyone, local, state, nationally, or internationally, that's your prerogative. However, should anyone harass you, please let me know and I will address those issues. If anyone through somehow or another discover your identity and harass you, and rest assured I will intercede on your behalf. That having been said, you are free to communicate with whomever you might want to concerning the case from now on. So with that, thank you, and you all are free to go.
Judge, if I could
Yes.
If I could have you go to the jury, and I'm going to meet you back there for just a few minutes.
All right.
Gather your belongings.
As is my practice, I'll speak with the foreperson before you leave the building after talking to them back there. Anything else?
Y'all. Oh my gosh. Let me tell you, here's the thing. It's so funny. I'm like reading the chat. It's like, great judge. This judge sucks.
Till 9:30 tomorrow morning.
Great judge. Literally, I'm watching the chat, and some people say, "Great judge. This judge sucks." It's so crazy how everybody there's people. It's literally like politics. Some people think he's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, no question. Some people think that he's not guilty. Some people think that he's guilty, but it was absolutely not proven. And that's where I stand on things. Which I want to be clear. I respect everybody's opinion. So don't feel like you got to leave my stream just because, say you believe that he's guilty 100%. I was not convinced. And I do want to be clear. I did not watch every day of the trial. I couldn't. I had to work. Also, I do want to note that they showed the jurors' faces, like the camera pan. And I do understand they can talk after the trial and they are released. But how do we know that they did not want to remain anonymous? I mean, considering the situation, considering the fact that the Murdaughs still have pull, I'm sure, in that area. Maybe Alec doesn't, but the fact that possible, if I was a member of that jury, I probably would never say anything. Just out of fear of like retribution or something, you know what I'm saying? But Law and Crime sure panned through and showed their faces. Now, I do want to clear up, Buster was not flipping the camera off. It did kind of look like it but I have my screen pulled over here way bigger. Over here is like full screen, so I could see better, and he was not flipping the camera off. I guess now they're waiting for Alec to leave. See, I think I struggle with this.
I know, right? It's like no cars sitting down here all day.
Buster was crying though. I did see that Buster was indeed crying. You could see the tear falling off his nose.
I know there's some activity going on there with Anjanette, and she's doing a lot of stuff. Anjanette, just real quick, between you and Chris, I'm curious. Maybe the reason there's not a plea offer, and we were talking about this before with Brian, is because this defendant recognizes Murdaugh. He's going to be spending the rest of his life in jail, and it's not about that. It's about him vindicating himself and his reputation that I didn't kill my son and I didn't kill my wife, and he's not going to take a deal because he wants to go on appeal with this 404 evidence. What do you think? What does Chris think?
Do you think that part of the reason he didn't take a deal for all of this, including the homicides, was because he thought, I'll go, I'll roll the dice. They thought it was a defensible case, and then possibly he appeals on the 404B evidence. But Linda Cunningham had said yesterday that that's done because he testified. But what is the law down here in South Carolina about that?
I think it's going to be what's on the record. I would never want to put my fate in the hands of the appellate courts, and I don't mean that disrespectfully to the appellate courts, but I don't think you ever want to reject a decent plea offer if you did it, hoping that you have good appellate issues. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out on appeal. I think his leverage to negotiate a global resolution ended about 15 minutes ago, before the jury came in. Until they knock on the door and come in and read their verdict, you can work something out. But once that happens, there's no incentive for the state.
Yeah, Anjanette,
negotiate.
Right, they won.
Ask him this. I'm taking a completely 180-degree turn from that. I think Murdaugh does not want to take a deal. I think Murdaugh wants to be found either not guilty. He knows he's spending the rest of his life in jail. He wanted vindication for the murder of his wife and son. So for him, he won't take a deal because he wants to rely on the 404 on appeal.
Bob thinks that he didn't want to take the deal because he wanted to be vindicated. You know, that if there's the reputational aspect of this. We heard that testimony about how he was very concerned, possibly more than his other siblings, about the family legacy. His number one priority after the homicides, according to Marion Proctor, was clearing Paul's name, not finding the killers. So the appeal on the 404B evidence, though,
So I think the bigger question is, why would he go to trial if he could have resolved it, especially when he had so much liability on the financial crimes? And, you know, he has people in his family who believe in his innocence, and what the jury just found isn't going to change that or shake that. And those are his support. Those are the people he loves and cares about the most. And I don't know what the future holds, but I would anticipate that they're going to fight for him for years to come, and not accept that the jurors got it right. The rest of Colleton County may accept that the jurors got it right, but those closest to Alec are going to believe him for a while, and he'll be able to litigate about whether he had a fair trial or not.
Yeah, and Brian, thank you.
There you go, Bob.
Yeah, Brian, this is exactly what I'm saying, though. See, if you work with me on this, we're in studio, it's a little easier. That's exactly the point. He's going to be going into jail. He knows that. That's why he got on the stand and confessed to crimes that he knew would put him in jail for the rest of his life. Why would he do it? He knows he's going down, but he doesn't want to go down as a murderer. And when you're in jail, Brian, you know, I know, having family support and people that believe you, whether right or wrong, and trying to be vindicated on appeal is a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, going to jail is one thing. Going to jail for a specific thing is a completely different thing. Being a murderer in jail, the way that the guards will treat you, the way that the other inmates will treat you, and the way that your family may or may not treat you is also a big component. Family visiting individuals who are incarcerated can make that life sentence feel a lot shorter. But being isolated in a jail when your family believes that you killed your wife and your son is a much different sentence. That's just for the average, ordinary person. The one thing that I definitely think is true about this case, and I mean, maybe not the one thing, but multiple things, Alec Murdaugh has a high sense of pride. And I think that the punishment of him knowing that he is guilty of these murders is a punishment far greater than any amount of years in jail. And so I think he's really going to try to push hard on trying to win that appeal. And then maybe, as you're saying, I don't take a global disposition, I fight this appeal, clear my name, and then I go and resolve the other cases.
Yeah, I think this is a fascinating question because the possibility of a global resolution, I think, is going to be more thwarted by Murdaugh than I think it is by prosecutors, but we're only speculating. All right, Anjanette, Chris, thank you very much. I know you guys got a lot going on down there. We'll sign you guys off, and maybe we'll see you later. Great job, guys.
Yeah, we think there's a press conference about to start, so we really need to kind of run over and check that out, Bob. Sorry, there's a lot going on down here in Walterboro tonight, so sorry if we've been wiggling around a little bit.
No worries, Anjanette. Be well. We'll see you soon. Okay, right. So, Brian, we're looking right now apparently at an area that Murdaugh may come out, but you made a point. I was thinking about this before, and you articulated it so well, and I think it's really important. Murdaugh's an attorney, or was an attorney. There is different kinds of time you do in jail, and I'd like you just to tell the audience a little bit more about the difference of maybe a financial fraud guy is one thing, but killing your wife and kid, that in the code of conduct, if you will, in a prison can make your life almost segregation eligible.
Yeah, I mean, it's a number of things. So he volunteered as a prosecutor. My first thought is, are any of the people that he prosecuted going to be in that jail with him, right? Maybe not. The other thing is, as much as those people who are not in jail, who have never spent time in jail, may think, well, one criminal is just as equally bad as the other criminal. No, there's a hierarchy. There's a standard in there. You killing your wife, that's bad. But clear across the board, you killing your son and doing it in this manner, jail, they have TV, they have news, they know who's about to walk in probably tonight, if not first thing in the morning, and they're waiting for Alec Murdaugh. And so being in jail for a financial fraudster as a former attorney, he's gonna be living a lavish life. He's gonna be in there probably writing appeals for his other inmates. He's gonna be helping giving them information on the law library. It's a much cushier life. His family's gonna come and visit him. He'd probably even still have access to Maggie's estate because he's not convicted of murdering her. A little bit of extra money while he's in there. It's a better life. But being found guilty of killing your wife and son, the way that others will treat him, he'll probably be in segregated population. He's not going to interact with people. Being in jail just by yourself with no one visiting because they believe you killed your family, different life altogether.
Yeah, so what do you think is the conversation going on right now between the attorneys and their client at this point? Because they've suffered a profound defeat in such a short verdict.
I think the conversation is to be very pointed. They all know what's the next step. It's going to be the conversation of what are we going to do next? What are we filing? How are we going to file? What are the issues? What are we going to argue? When can we get this to appellate court? Can we, he's remanded, so there's not going to be the conversation of can we change the bail so that I can get out while we're doing this appeal? Something that comes up, but I don't think that's an option here. I think right now they're laser focused on next steps. Obviously, they're going to be going through, okay, this is what's going to happen when you go to incarceration. I think Alex already probably knows that because he's been coming in and out of the jail to do this trial. But those are the conversations you have with your client after they've been convicted. This is what I'm going to do for you. This is what Monday morning is going to look like. I'm going to be filing this. I'm going to be talking to this. We're going to argue this. This is what the jail process is going to look like. Okay, you're going to be in jail till then. We're going to have the sentencing. This is how we're going to try to argue 30 years. This is how we're going to try to get away from the life sentence. This is how we're going to try to get away from the consecutive sentence. Those are the conversations, as you know, Bob, they're going to be having right now in the next 24 to 48 hours.
You know, Brian, in a case like this, there's a lot of intense emotions, and I'm just curious. I know I'm asking you to spitball here, but sometimes the client can become very agitated with the lawyers. They can never accept responsibility for what it is that they did. They blame the manner in which the lawyers tried the case. What do you think that relationship looks like right now? Are they bonding and getting stronger together, or is that antipathy starting between them where he's going to start blaming the lawyers for the loss?
I think it really depends on how the lawyer gears that conversation. The way that I'm articulating as to how I expect it to happen would be thinking about next steps. When you have that conversation with your client and you're not just like, oh, the jury got it wrong, oh, the judge made a bad call, shouldn't let that evidence in, you just become a part of that, I don't want to say pity party, but they start going down the rabbit hole as to everything that's wrong. And eventually when you start going, the jury got it wrong, the prosecutor did this wrong, the judge got it wrong, your name's going to come up in that conversation. So in my mind, a responsible attorney and one who's always fighting for a client up until the very, very, very end, because this isn't the end, this is a end, not the end. The conversation should be, here are the issues. This is where I'm going to fight. I would even say Monday morning, Friday morning, this is what I'm filing. We're going to make these arguments to reduce the sentence, but I don't even really care about the sentence because that will not be your sentence because we will fight this in the appellate court and we will find victory, or at least attempt to find victory in here, here, and here. That, you hope, galvanizes your client, really refocuses them on not the next couple of days and hours because they're going to be miserable. Getting booked into a jail when you know you're going to have a potential sentencing come up for a long, long period of time. I mean, what Alec Murdaugh's in his early to mid 50s, 30 years, yet alone 60 years is a potential life sentence because, yeah, the life expectancy of the average male is what, 80 some odd years, but that's not jail years, right?
Okay, I'm gonna pause what they're talking about. We'll bring it back up whenever they do the press conference. But y'all, I'm not gonna lie. Like I said, I don't want people to come to my channel and be like, "Oh, they think he's innocent here. Deuces, I'm out." I don't know what I think. I can say there's times I watched the trial where I thought, what? Maybe he is guilty. But also times I watched the trial where I thought, maybe he's innocent. And I feel like if at the end of the trial, if you are a member of the jury and you're sitting there and you're thinking, the thing is you are supposed to be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt. Like you are supposed to absolutely think, okay, there's Absolutely, he did it. I don't think the state proved that because, like I said, I didn't watch all of it, but there are people in here that did. And there's just way too many questions that still don't have answers. I mean, down to the corners, the time, they really couldn't nail down a time. The corner with the armpit, if it was 2 shooters, 1 shooter. And my thing is, I'm going to be honest. At first, I thought he was guilty. I was like, oh, absolutely guilty. And that was just me kind of before the trial started, kind of reading things. I was like, he's guilty, 100%. I kind of based that more off of, though, the fact that he was a criminal. He stole money from people. I mean, he stole money from, dead people, essentially, or their children, like Gloria Satterfield. Gloria Satterfield was somebody really close to the family. Gloria Satterfield considered them family, and he stole money from her boys. So I'm like, I think when you hear of somebody committing crimes like that, and then they're charged for murder, you just automatically think, well, surely. But a thief's not a murderer. I got people in my family steal all day long. But I don't think they would murder, or they haven't yet. You know what I'm saying? Like, stealing does not make you a murderer. So it was after watching the bits and pieces of this trial that I did watch, where I then was like, there's too many unanswered questions. And if there are too many unanswered questions, I just feel like how, as the jury, how can you find someone guilty? Now, like I said, there's this one part of me that's like, surely he's guilty? Surely? So it's like, okay, if that's what I'm going with here, then great. But I'm like, I just don't know how they proved it. I don't know. When we talked last night, almost everyone in my chat was like, I'm not convinced. Like, the state has not convinced me because there's too many questions still. And most of you in here was like, I think he did, but they haven't proved it to me. And that's a problem with the justice system, because if the justice system are finding people guilty of murder when the only thing that we know that they've done for sure is steal, and that they had a drug problem, and they're just going based out more off feeling, like, oh, I feel like he did it. That is a problem. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't want to be up there one day and because maybe, let me tell you guys, I talk about my arrest all the time. Because from the outside looking in, I looked so guilty. Even my own family was like, oh, what? Because I looked so guilty, but I was not guilty of nothing. Nothing was I guilty of. So sometimes things can look a certain way, and it just doesn't mean that it is that way. So I'm just saying, from what I watched of it, I still had too many unanswered questions myself. Now, some people can feel like the state proved their case to them, and you are absolutely entitled to that. And I wish I had that clarity, because not having that clarity makes me worry. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, there's just one part of me that's like, yeah, I guess he did it. But then there's this other part of me that's like, first off, Alec is an attorney. A prosecutor. Don't you think if he was going to kill his wife and child, he would have did a better job of covering it up, making it look like someone else, than making it so obvious? You know what I'm saying? Like, or making certain things obvious. Because there were certain things that was like, oh, well, surely he had to. He's on the Snapchat video. You hear his voice. He lied about that. And like the defense said, this is just me talking, you guys. Like the defense said, if he wouldn't have lied to the police about being down there, if he would have said, well, yeah, I was down there, but I left right after that, would he have even been arrested for murder? Or is it just that one lie that got him caught up because he lied? That one lie, and they're like, oh, you were down there, so you must have did it. Like, there's some things that you can look at it and you're like, oh, surely he did it. So then I started thinking, because I'm like, I don't know if Alec Murdaugh could actually blow his son's brains out. It takes a real psychopath and deranged person to be able to kill their wife and son, but not only kill them, but blow your son's brains out.
More evidence could be that other trigger people.
Right? And I don't know if I believe Alec is capable of like some Jeffrey Dahmer crap or some, like to be able to do that. I don't know. So then I'm like, I don't think he's capable of pulling the trigger himself. I'm losing a lot of people in the chat. They don't agree with me, but that's okay. So he must have hired somebody to do it. Yeah, he hired somebody to do it. I'm like, surely he hired somebody to do it. But then I'm like, well, every story I've ever watched, read about, movie where someone hired someone to kill a family member, a spouse, a boyfriend, girlfriend, they make sure their alibi is airtight. They are nowhere in the vicinity. They are states away. They're overseas. They're in a third world country. You know what I'm saying? And Alec did not have an airtight alibi. He did not have an airtight alibi. He was literally, on his way to his mom's, from his mom's, with his mom who has Alzheimer's, so she couldn't really say, oh yeah, sure he's here. You know what I'm saying? I think if he hired someone, he would have been out of town. He would have been at the office with all his law partners. He would have been, I don't know, somewhere seen, like absolutely seen, where there would be absolutely no discussion. Yeah. So if he was to have, there were rumors that he ran drugs out of that area. They had a hangar, and Paul told some friends of his that his dad ran drugs. That planes would drop in and out and drop things, So then I started thinking, well, what if, Paul finds out about this thing that his dad's got going on, and a drug addict cannot be a drug dealer. It just ain't gonna work. It's like on Friday, you know what I'm saying? How Smokey smoked all of his weed, so he owed Big Worm all the time, and Big Worm was like, you know what I'm saying? So Alex, maybe in the beginning he was making money for his dealer, but it got to the point where he was doing so much that he was doing more than you know what I'm saying? He couldn't pay back, whatever. He was doing too much that they weren't making profit, so he owed these people a lot of money. Maybe they found out that Paul was running his mouth, or maybe they showed up to the property and popped in to confront Alec about the money, and Maggie and Paul was there, and just to warn him, pop. And some people's like, well, they would kill him, but then they can't get their money if they kill Alec. So maybe they did. And I think, because we heard him on the Snapchat, so I think that maybe that was their warning, like Buster's next, you're next, like you better pay us. And maybe he was there and he saw it, but not close enough to where blood would get on him, because there was no blood on him. So how did he do all these things while calling Maggie to make it look like he was calling to tell her, hey, I'm leaving to go to Alameda? He had just minutes to kill his family, get rid of the clothes, clean himself off, all the while calling clearly I wasn't with her, I called her. You know what I'm saying? Like, all these things, I'm just like, I don't know. I don't think the state proved it. There's still too many other questions, and I feel like it makes way more sense that someone else would kill them versus Alec. I think Alec was a lot. I think he was a lot, but I'm just so surprised they found him guilty. I don't know. Somebody convince me of why he's guilty. Because I know a lot. I'm watching, Law and Crime over here. That's what we have pulled up, and everybody's like, yes. They got it right. Yes. And I'm like, were y'all really convinced? Because I wasn't. Stephanie B says, in my opinion, state did not prove him guilty. People not liking him stealing in line sealed it. Yeah. Jenny Y says he was smug. He thought he could play the jury. And maybe so. Maybe he really did. I've not seen the Murdaugh documentary. I need to watch it. From what sealed the guilt verdict, the OnStar data, the persuasion of the staff, the guns were his favorite, the dog Snapchat, never concerned about his or his only living son's safety. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm just so. Why wouldn't he say it? Well, okay. Well, if say it's like the cartel. I mean, you can't tell them the cartel. You know what I'm saying? You can't. I mean, the same reason. Yeah, y'all know I have a friend. Anyways, me and her had a conversation after she got sober about like times where she was ripped off. Where she would go give her money to somebody to get whatever in return, and they would not give her whatever and would not bring her money back. And I'm like, what? Really? She's like, yeah, that happened to me so many times. Like I would give, money and that, and I'm like, oh, see, I call the cops. She's like, you can't call the cops because then you got to tell what you've been doing. So, like you can't contact the cops because then you'd have to tell the cops, well, you see, while I just got busted for all these financial crimes, I've also been smuggling drugs and I owe the guy money and he just come and wiped out my family. And then, I mean, they might arrest the person that did it, but if he's a part of a mafia, mob, cartel situation, they're coming for Buster. And we all know Alec loved Buster.
Cut you off, Brian. I see that there's some activity that's going on. I think in an area where they believe that we're going to see the defendant coming outside. So the law enforcement authorities, as you can see here, yeah, he's coming out right now, trying to keep the reporters and people away. Let's just give our audience an opportunity that are watching at least to see this. This is now convicted defendant Alec Murdaugh, no longer presumed innocent, facing life without the possibility of parole at sentencing.
Right, Candy?
Here he is.
It was him!
Well, slow. He's coming, I'm told. It's very slow. Take a look at his face. He could tell he was nervous. He was scared. He was beaten up when he was in that courtroom and that verdict was being read. I thought he was going to actually pass out. He had that look. See if he's recovered at all. After having spoke to his attorneys inside the courthouse, I'm sure, preparing for sentencing tomorrow. It's no longer a perp walk, Brian. It is a convicted felon walk. Convicted of killing, unbelievable, his wife and his son. Law enforcement's got a tough job here too, Brian, to make sure that no harm comes to him, believe it or not, right? Protecting these guys can be difficult in circumstances like this.
Absolutely. Got to keep their head on a swivel because it's not just, is the now convicted felon going to try to run or maybe try to hurt me? And I don't think that would happen with Murdaugh. But are people going to try to get to Murdaugh? And their job is to make sure that he's safe. And it's interesting.
I see that one of the officers has got his pink handcuffs in the back of his pants. Very stylish. Seen pink handcuffs.
Pink is in now.
Pink is in. It's the new handcuff look.
Pink is the new black.
All right, here he is.
Dunzo, dude. Dunzo.
And there he goes. Okay, Brian. So, not get that guy.
Yeah, like I was saying, the defense, we know the defense, what they're aiming for. They're aiming for 30 years, the lowest sentence, to run concurrently. So both murders running at the same time. The prosecution is probably going to be looking to get 2 life sentences to run consecutively. So what arguments are going to get you there as a defense attorney? I think at the end of the day, because of the heinousness of the crime, and then we're getting some insider information that this is not a judge who sentences lightly, we're probably leaning closer to the prosecutor. So I think on top of any arguments for appeal, they're also going to probably make an 8th Amendment argument that a first-time offender should not get the higher range of sentencing, and they'll add that to their argument as well to try to reduce any jail time.
Yeah, and you make all great points.
I don't think so. Anybody in that area know? No, he cannot be given the death penalty because the judge said the minimum is 30 years, the maximum is life in prison. Yeah, the most he'll get is life in prison, which he was already looking at for the financial crimes. So, yeah. He will be denied appeal. I don't know, y'all. I'm flabbergasted. Which, like I said, before the trial started, I was like, he did that. He did that. But y'all, I was watching some of the closing arguments, and I've watched some of the case, not all of it. Now, Stephanie, thank you for bringing that up because that was something that I said as well. I was like, hold up. If my wife and son had just been murdered and I did not know who did this, my first call would be to Buster to check to see if he was okay. Buster, are you okay? Somebody just wiped out Mom and Paul. I need to make sure you're okay. You know, okay, you're okay? Get here now. You know, I don't know if somebody's after the family. Now, go back to my theory. If this was, you know, an attack due to him owing some drug lord money, then maybe they said, you have such amount of time to get us our money, or we're going for bus. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. So maybe he knew that Buster was okay for that. I don't know. Free Big Alec. But one thing, and I'm going to do a video on this, is he has ties to, like, big drug lords. Because that's how he got Moselle. That's where he got that property from. So, Alec Murdaugh, the property has a history. The Moselle estate was owned by a big drug dealer who Alec represented in court. The drug dealer ended up passing away, and I guess they still had a bill with Alec for representing the drug dealer. And the drug dealer's wife sold the property to Alec for like super cheap or something to kind of pay off that debt or whatever. So, you know, he definitely had some friends. So you're representing drug lords, you know, and here you are doing drugs. And maybe there was a conversation though, like, hey, I got a place where you can land a plane. I can help you. I don't know. Elle, I get it. It's like my mind changed every hour regarding the cat. I know, mine too. There's things that I'm like, okay, he didn't even call to check on Bussy. Did they call him Bussy or did I make that up? I feel like I made up the name Bussy. I don't know.
Points, and that's why you're a great defense attorney, but.
And then things like he got no blood on him at all and accomplished all of this in like just minutes. No blood, you know what I'm saying? He might have. I don't. Did anybody hear that go on in court? Did anybody's testimony say that Alec called to check on Buster to make sure he was okay? Was it Bus? Maybe because it was Paw. Yes, that's how you got the property, you guys. I was shocked. I read about that like last week, right? I was like, what? I'm going to do a video on it, like the dark history of Moselle. He did ask the police to escort Buster to make sure he was safe. It was on camera, I believe. Gotcha. History of Moselle. Y'all, don't hate me, people that thinks he's like guilty. Bam, he's guilty. That's what it is. Don't hate me. Because I just can't say that I'm convinced. I just can't. I was arrested for running from the police in Schedule 2, which is cocaine, to which I've never even seen cocaine, and I did not run from the police. And it's almost to the point where I get tired of telling the story because I brought it up so many times. But if you saw my charges, you know, it was improper lane usage where they said I like crossed the line, which was their reasoning for getting behind, pulling me over, whatever. I crossed the line and they turned their lights on, turned their sirens on according to them, and followed me for 5 miles according to them. Lights, sirens, 4 of them. And it was not 5 miles. I only lived like 3.5 miles from where I was pulled over. So it was, I mean, if they started following me as soon as I got out of my driveway, they may have followed me for 3.5 miles. But anyways, they charged me with improper lane usage, scheduled flight from an officer in Schedule 2. So it's like, oh, she's under the influence, you know, under the influence, clearly she's swerving, and the cops turn the lights on, and she got drugs on her, so she can't stop. So she's running, she's running. It makes perfect sense. She's running like Forrest Gump, and I was running. Really, I wasn't, but yeah, she had drugs on her. So I'm like the perfect example of like you cannot judge a book by its cover. You cannot judge something by the way that it sounds because you never know what it is. Come to find out with me, they were not following me for as long as they said. I pulled over as soon as I seen them. It just happened that I did not see them for a moment. But as soon as I saw them, I pulled over, and it was chalk. I had a bag that it once had chalk in it because I have 6 children. My daughter was 3 at the time, and she had left that bag in my car. And they said that chalk was cocaine. You know what I'm saying? So mine looked like I ran from the law. Sure, I ran from the law because I had cocaine. That's what it looked like. But that is absolutely not what it was. And I was 1,000% innocent in that. And the charges were dismissed. I sued, settled, all of that happened. So I'm just like, I just don't know. I just don't know. I'm like, so let's go over this really quickly while we're waiting for the press conference. Okay, the Mudaugh estate had a mysterious past even before Maggie and Paul's murder, with ties to a suspected drug smuggler and a housekeeper's fatal fall. I think this is it. This isn't the one that I read, but let me see if this talks about the history. All right, Mazel's dark history. Bordering the bank of the Salkehatchie River, 4147 Mazel Road consists of over 1,700 acres of land, including a 5,275 square foot house, a farm. Thank you so much, Stephanie. I appreciate that so much. A farm, a 2-mile stretch of river, and of course, the dog kennels. Before the Murdaughs called Mazel home, the property was tied to another controversial family. It was the home of Barrett Bulware, a fisherman, suspected drug smuggler, and Mr. Murdaugh's longtime friend and business partner who died in 2018. He and his father were arrested on drug smuggling charges back in 1980 when investigators seized 15 tons of marijuana from a shrimp boat in the Bahamas. The charges were later dropped when a key government witness died. What? When a key government witness died. I don't think you can deny the appeal. He denied the mistrial. The judge denied the motion for a mistrial. Because I don't think they can they deny an appeal like that? I think there's like a process. Yeah, I think it's like a different judge has to. Yeah, the judge denied a mistrial, not the appeal. Because I'm like, surely he can get an appeal. And I didn't hear that. I mean, this is in 1980 and 15 tons of marijuana. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think marijuana was looked at back then different. Let's see if they talk about any other drugs. The charges were later dropped when a key government witness died. Bulware's name cropped up during the murder trial when jurors heard that Mr. Murdaugh had stolen $750,000 in insurance money from his friend when he was dying of colon cancer. Alec Murdaugh bought Mazel back in 2013 from Bulware's wife, Janine Morris Bulware, according to the property records. Mr. Murdaugh allegedly bought the property for just $5, a move sometimes used so the seller can avoid paying capital gains taxes. Mazel was just one of several homes that the high-powered attorney and alleged financial fraudster owns. The family also had a home in Hampton, as well as a beach house in Edisto. Yeah, so in the months after the murders, Mr. Murdaugh put Mazel on the market and is currently under offer for a $3.9 million bid from a mystery buyer. The property was listed in February 2022, 8 months after Maggie and Paul's murders, and 5 months before Mr. Murdaugh was charged with them, under a new name of Cross Swamp Farm. It was later changed back to Moselle Farm. According to the listing by the Crossland Co. in Carleton County, Moselle consists of 1,772 acres of an unusually diverse habitat with varying forest types and age class distribution. The landscape includes productive pine plantations, open fallowing fields, and a mature stand in a mixed pine hardwood. Those upland regions give way to the flat bottomland of the Salkehatchie River Basin. Am I saying that right? The property boasts over 2.5 miles of river frontage, offering freshwater fishing, kayaking, and abundant deer, turkey, and waterfowl populations. The family home was built in 2011 and consists of 4 bedrooms, 3.5 baths, meaning it could easily be converted into a weekend hunting lodge with the capability of sleeping up to 15 people. Sounds like my house. I mean, how you? Yeah, okay. No, cram them in there. This is truly a top-tier property, complete with all the improvements and amenities one would expect from a high-end sporting property with little or no deferred maintenance costs. A buyer, said to be a local landowner, put in an offer in June 2022, but the sale was put on hold when Mr. Murdaugh was accused of trying to offload his assets to avoid paying up a string of lawsuits he was facing, prompting a court to freeze his assets. A mystery buyer. So yeah, ties to, I mean, more than likely, if they're smuggling 50 pounds of marijuana, there's another shrimp boat that probably have 50 pounds of cocaine, in my opinion. All right.
We have the press conference, so we'll get to that question afterwards. Let's go to it.
Y'all be patient. There's a lot of us coming out. How are we on the mic check?
Good.
Thumbs up. Thank you. We got our team out here. Wow. What a great day for the people of South Carolina. I want to thank every one of you for being here tonight. There's a lot of emotion here tonight at this courthouse. A lot of a year and a half, nearly 2 years of blood, sweat, and tears, it feels like. A lot of hard work from so many people. So if you will just bear with me, there's there's a lot of people I have to thank. But first, those of you who don't know, I'm Alan Wilson. I'm South Carolina's Attorney General, and I got the best staff of any Attorney General in the United States of America. I want to start by thanking our prosecution team. I want to tell you, I've been here for nearly 6 weeks with this team, living in a hotel, and it felt almost like being in a dorm environment in college. Late nights, cramming, studying, little sleep, away from our families, getting up early, getting here to the courthouse, working long hours, getting on each other's nerves at times. But it was all worth it. It was all worth it because we got to bring justice and be a voice for Maggie and Paul Murdaugh and bring justice for the people of South Carolina. I'd like to start real briefly by thanking our team. First, excuse me, let me put my glasses on. Our chief prosecutor, I tell you, I appointed Creighton Waters to be the chief prosecutor of this case nearly a year and a half ago. And I want to say I'm pretty brilliant because I picked the right guy. And I want to say thank you to Creighton Waters. Creighton, you did a fantastic job. I don't think there's another attorney in the state of South Carolina that could have led this Herculean effort. But Creighton will be the first to tell you he didn't do it alone because he had a team of people. I want to first thank Don Zelinka, who is actually Creighton's boss. He is the Deputy Attorney General, been in the Attorney General's office for over 40 years. Sitting here to my immediate left, Don Zelinka, thank you so much. John Metters, many of you got to see him do the closing argument today. John, thank you. You've been a phenomenal add to our team. I'm going to go quickly through the names, but as I read the names, please raise your hand. You know Creighton, you saw Don, and you see John. David Fernandez, John Conrad, Johnny James, Savannah Gowd, Ozzy Toledo, Shane Aceto, Carly Jewell, Carson Burney, Danielle Colon, and our victims advocate, Tricia Allen. I also want to say thank you to the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. Mark Keel assigned some amazing men and women. And when I say it was an agency-wide effort on behalf of SLED, I can't underscore that part enough. Every time I called Chief Keel, every time I reached out to the lead agents, every time Creighton was asking me, hey, General, we need something from SLED, we would reach out to SLED, and they were there. They busted their butts. I can't begin to list every agent, and some can't be listed for obvious reasons. Some are standing up here tonight. I told them I wasn't going to mention their names, but we would not be here if it wasn't for SLED. And I want to thank Mark Keel and his team and all of the men and women across the entire State Law Enforcement Division for what they did to make tonight a possibility. Amen. I also want to thank the FBI and the Secret Service, our federal partners. We had to utilize many of their assets and resources. We couldn't do all the things that we did without our federal partners. We had a lot of local partners. We had the Colleton County Sheriff's Department, Buddy Hill, Sheriff Hill and his team, providing the security. They did a phenomenal job, and they were there. They were the first responders the night on June 7, 2021, when Maggie and Paul were butchered brutally. They were the first responders, and they were the first ones to be there. The Charleston County Sheriff's Office, the Orangeburg County Sheriff's Office were instrumental in supporting our investigative efforts. You all know Kenny Kinsey, our chief crime scene expert, was with the Orangeburg Sheriff's Office. I also want to thank the city of Walterboro. I think the mayor is here somewhere, and the police department. They provided security. Thank you. This whole community has embraced our entire team, and I cannot thank you enough. We've all been away from our families, 2 hours away from our families for the past 2 months. And it's this community that made us. We would walk into restaurants and people would come up and thank us. You know, you don't have any idea how good that makes people feel when they're under an incredible amount of stress, an incredible amount of scrutiny, and this community really embraced us. I want to thank the Colleton County Clerk of Court, Becky Hill, and her entire team and their staff. I don't know. I call her Becky Booth. That's her nickname. But Madam Clerk, wherever you are tonight. I'm sorry. That's my pet name for her. But I want to thank you, Madam Clerk, for you, the entire team, the bailiffs, the court security, the staff here. There was no role that was too small that they weren't willing to do for us. The security team here, it was a Herculean effort by everybody, and I can't thank enough people.
I'd like to thank the Academy.
I don't know if I mentioned the bailiffs, but I want to thank them. And there's another group of people who you don't know who they are, but that's the jurors. And not just the jurors, but the alternates, the ones who didn't even get to serve to the very end, but people who were taken away from their families. I want to thank the families of our jurors who sat here every single day for what seemed like long amounts of tedious, monotonous information and evidence. Sometimes people didn't know what it meant. They didn't understand it, and they had to sit there and process it and hear it over and over and over again. And I want to thank these nameless jurors whose identities have been protected. They may make their identities available to all of you at some point, but they sat there and they delivered justice tonight, and I want to thank them for their role in this process. You know, Winston Churchill said, democracy is the worst form of government except for every other kind. I kind of want to adopt that and say we may have the worst criminal justice system in the world, but it's better than every other kind that there is. And our criminal justice system worked tonight. It gave a voice to Maggie and Paul Murdaugh, who were brutally mowed down and murdered on the night of June 7th, 2021 by someone that they loved and someone that they trusted. And they couldn't be here to testify for themselves tonight. Their testimony came through the evidence and the information that was gathered by the men and women of the agencies I've just mentioned. It came from the testimony of the agents and the investigators and the attorneys and the folks in our staff who were able to get it to the court record. And so I want to say tonight, their voice was heard tonight, and justice was brought for them. We can't bring them back, but we can bring them justice. I started off my remarks by saying that it is a good day in South Carolina.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Today's verdict proves that no one, no matter who you are in society, is above the law. A lot of people doubted that this process would work, and hopefully, for those who did doubt the process, hopefully we have instilled and put a little bit of faith back into you and your lives as you view this process as it unfolds. I'm proud of this team. I'm proud of the men and women standing behind me tonight, and there's been a lot of emotion. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I saw firsthand for the last 5 or 6 weeks the countless nights where you were up beyond midnight and you were getting up before dawn, not eating. Watching Nancy Grace the other night, and I heard her call Creighton pale and gaunt because Creighton wasn't eating and sleeping. He really wasn't, folks. I'm serious. You know, we would have to bring you in kind bars and things to eat during breaks. But Creighton, Herculean effort, my friend. And I am truly honored to have you on our team. Thank you for being a great leader and a great chief prosecutor. And I would like to invite you to come up here and make some remarks to the folks here tonight.
Thanks, everybody. And I want to start by thanking this guy who's given me and all these folks behind us opportunities to do justice, which is what we want to do with our careers. It is very tough and demanding, but it's rewarding for moments like these. The general stole a lot of my lines, but I also want to thank the jurors for their long and arduous service. And we had no doubt that if we had a chance to present our case in a court of law, that they would see through the one last con that Alec Murdaugh was trying to pull. And they did, and we're so grateful for that. I get to lead the state grand jury section in the Attorney General's office. This particular case is not a state grand jury case. There are other indictments that are state grand jury. But the one thing about that is that I have an amazing team. And I want to be clear, this was a team effort. Y'all saw all of these folks behind me doing amazing work. And I can't be prouder of a team in my life. We called this our Super Bowl. And not because of the media attention, but just because of the effort that we knew that we would have to put into this. And we didn't really get to watch much of the Super Bowl that went on because when we arrived, I think it was winter and it feels like spring now. But every single member of this team, every single member of the state grand jury staff, what we do well is work together as a team in complex investigations. And who we work with is my partners at SLED. And I can't thank them enough as well because we're used to working on these complex cases and working together. And I'm not leaving out Sheriff Hill and the Colleton County Sheriff's Office and our federal partners in Orangeburg and Charleston Sheriff's Office and all the other agencies that have worked on this case. I also want to thank Miss Becky, if she's still up there, because she's been amazing. The clerk staff has been amazing. The court staff has been amazing. The bailiffs have been amazing. And again, I also want to thank this community who really has embraced us and has been so great to us and made us able to survive this process that has been long and arduous. And I have been sleeping. I hadn't been. And I have been eating more than Kind bars every now and then. But, and I'm sure that's a nice plug for Kind. But anyway, it really has been a great process. We will have sentencing tomorrow. Obviously, we're not going to comment on sentencing because that's still pending. But justice was done today. It doesn't matter who your family is. It doesn't matter how much money you have or people think you have. It doesn't matter what you think, how prominent you are. If you do wrong, if you break the law, if you murder, then justice will be done in South Carolina. And I think South Carolina has shown to the nation and the world how a process can work and work well. Thank y'all.
And also, I want to thank Creighton. I told Creighton, I said, Creighton, I'm going to come down and I'm going to be just a staff attorney. I know I'm your boss. I'm your boss's boss's boss. But I said I'm going to come down and I'm going to help. And I said I'm going to follow instruction. And I hope I was true to my word. This past weekend, I said, what can I do to help? I said, I'm willing to take a witness if it'll help. He said, actually, it would. He let an old prosecutor dust off his cleats and get back in the game and to help the team out. And
I got to be the boss of the boss for a while.
Yeah, don't get used to it. No, but in all seriousness, I'm proud of the decisions that I made in putting the people behind me and to the left and right of me in charge of this case, and I was honored to be part of this team. Just another member, just another worker bee in the trenches trying to bring justice to the people of this state and to bring justice to the people who couldn't be here tonight because they were brutally murdered by someone they trusted. Now, with that being said, I know a lot of people want to talk to us. A lot of people want to talk to some of the attorneys and the support staff and the agents, investigators here tonight. Some of you want to talk to me and others. We're going to make ourselves available to you. But like Mr. Waters just said, tomorrow there's a sentencing hearing, and we don't want to get out in front of our skis. And plus, I'm starting to feel the rain come down. But I promise you, we're going to make ourselves available to talk to members of the media, to talk to all of you out there that have questions. We'll answer any questions that we ethically can. We hope you'll continue to be patient with us as we finish this process tomorrow. Again, we're going to go back and get a good night sleep tonight. But again, thank you. I'm going to also, one last group that we didn't thank, the media. You all, I know a lot of people in this, polarizing world we live in, a lot of people take shots at the media, but the media was incredibly respectful. You were so good, not just to us, but listen, to the families of the victims, okay? I know this is an awkward situation, but, you protected the identities of people and, you protected the process. And I want to thank you for your part in this and telling the stories, educating the public on what's going on out there. So now I'm going to stop speaking as an attorney general, and I'm going to close as a father and as a husband to say that when you go home tonight, hug your loved ones, hug your spouse, hug your children, because this case reminds us of anything that you can't take for granted that people in your family are always going to be there. And right now, when I get home tomorrow, I'm going to hug mine, and I hope you hug yours. But thank you again. Thank you for your prayers.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your prayers. You came and prayed for me. I see a lot of people come up and say we're praying for you. We appreciate your prayers. Thank you all so much. And this is going to conclude this press conference. We look forward to talking to all of you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna let you go right here. I just want to thank you and your staff. Y'all did a good job. God bless you. Thank y'all very much. Thank y'all. And thank the media.
All right, Brian Buck.
All right, so I have Law and Crime pulled up. That's what we're watching, and I'm looking at their chat every once in a while, and I just saw somebody in the chat said, all you not guilty people, where y'all at? Now what? Now what? Let me read it, because I'm like, well, that's no way to be. Everybody's entitled to believe. I want to be absolutely clear in saying this. When I first heard about this case, and I did my Murdaugh murder documentary video, I thought he was 1,000% guilty. I'm like, this dude did it. He is going down. He did it. But as I started watching the trial and started hearing other things, I would hear from the prosecution, and I'd be like, okay, yeah, I think he did it. Then I hear from the defense, and I'd be like, never mind. I don't think he did. And it just caused a lot of conflict, and it made me have a lot of questions that I felt like if I was a member of the jury, I could not say I was convinced beyond a reasonable doubt. Like, I couldn't feel like, well, like there's a big part of me that maybe was more like, surely he did. You know what I'm saying? He had to. I don't know. I just don't think I could do it, because your job is to be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt. And I'm just like, I think it was, I don't know. I don't think I was convinced beyond a reasonable doubt, because I still had too many unanswered questions. Thank you, Stephanie. Oh, thank you so much. And I want to be clear, and we are all allowed to have our opinions in here, because I don't know what the heck I believe. I don't know what I believe. I need to watch the whole trial and see if that gives me some clarity on it. But the thing about it is it's a sad situation no matter what way you look at it. At the end of the day, 2 people are dead. This family has just been completely demolished, And while I think Alec was a skeezer, a low down dirty dog that lied and stole. I think there were probably members of his family that may have been decent people, like John Marvin. I watched him testify, and he seemed to be like I don't know. What do you guys think about John Marvin? Is he involved in any scandals out there that I need to know about? Because when I watched him, I got the feeling that he was like a decent guy. I don't know. And that's another thing too. The fact that they got rid of a juror this morning, and she had conversated with other people saying that she was not convinced. She's like the one juror member that was not convinced, and somehow she gets booted. That doesn't, I don't know, that, I'm like, what? And also, like, someone in the chat earlier said, you know, how could you find your wife and son dead and be surfing the internet? And I'm like, I don't trust like technology really enough to say. And he said no. What they said that he looked up was a restaurant that they've eaten at many times. And there's been cases like the Casey Anthony situation where they like looked up the computer and found searches, but the dates were messed up or the times were messed up. Like one person said it happened at this time, but another person said, oh, no, that was messed up. It wasn't that time. It was another time. Yeah, Candy. So the jury member had been conversating with somebody, I think, through like email, and had basically said she wasn't convinced. Were they at least deviled eggs? Y'all know eggs expensive. I would have got my eggs too. So yeah. John Marvin. Wait, John Marvin's not an attorney. John Marvin is an in-law, so that couldn't be him. Casey said John Marvin offered to take the Stevens case, allegedly to cover up for Buster. But John Marvin is the only son that did not go into law, which he's quite proud of that, he said. He owns an equipment rental business, so it may have been the other brother, Randy. But I would think that they would not allow any of the Murdaughs to handle that case. Stephanie said, all apologies. Those eggs are probably worth more than what she was getting paid for jury duty. I know that's right. So I'm just like, I think about my case. I'm like, boy, I would have been proved. Like, if they just had to go based off, like, listening to the cops and about my case, I could have been found guilty, possibly. Like, thank God for dash cam and body cam. You know what I'm saying? And like, so, I don't know. I'm just so royally confused. Yeah, the juror broke the rules, so, you're not supposed to talk about it. It's wild, though, that a member of the public found out somehow and reported her. Who told on her? I went to the store this morning only for eggs. Spent $150 and forgot the eggs. Lord, yeah, I was shocked when I saw that eggs was so expensive the other day. I was like, my mama need to get her chickens back doing their thing. It's a virus at the courthouse right now. I'm just like, there were so many things that had me question it. Well, she asked about the ex-husband, and the judge said, no. This isn't to do with the ex-husband. But, so apparently they said after he killed his wife that he searched something on the internet, I did not watch every day of the trial, so I do have to say that I didn't. And he said, I didn't. He said, I was messing with my phone a lot. I was calling people. I guess it's possible. And I do this all the time. I'll be in my phone, and I will record and edit with my phone. And a lot of times, what I'll do, if I'm going to check messages, I'll like double click to go into the messages and just scroll over to like the last thing. But I might go into my email rather than going into my messages, thinking that it's my messages. So I'm like, maybe he did. Maybe he did go onto the internet for a split second, but it was frantically trying to call people, and he just, I don't know, I don't know. Because I'm like, why would he be looking up a restaurant anyways? It's not like he went on Google and searched something about a murder, because then I'd be like, okay, yeah, that's sus. They literally claim that he went into Google and searched a restaurant that him and his family eat at all the time. What would he be doing that for? To me, that seems like a, not a butt dial, but like an accident situation. So, and I don't trust technology. I do not trust technology. You guys, we have cameras in our house, and there's been times my husband will be like, hey, when you did X, Y, and Z, did you see blah, 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 blah? And I'm like, I didn't do X, Y, and Z. And he's like, yeah, you did last night. And I'm like, no, I didn't. He's like, net, yes, you did. And I'm like, Sean, no, I didn't. I came in, I took a bath, I ate, I'm like, name everything that I did. And he's like, but you, like, when you washed laundry after you came in from working last night, okay, we're going to say this. My husband was like, hey, Net, when you came in last night after you got off work and you put the load of laundry in the wash machine, did you wash my gray Nike hoodie? And I'm like, literally, stuff like this has happened. I'm like, I didn't put a load of laundry on when I came in last night. I just came in, ate, and then went to go bath and went to bed. And he's like, no, you washed laundry. And I'm like, no, I didn't. And we will go back on the cameras, and I'll be damned if I didn't put a load of laundry on. And I'm like, I have no memory of that. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, or my husband will tell me something, like through text, and like later on, I'm like, when you told me this, he'll be like, I ain't tell you that. I'm like, yeah, you did. And then I show him that he told me that, and he's like, I don't remember you telling me that. So, like, in the case of like some of the people saying like, Alec told me this, and he's like, no, I don't think I did, or, it's like different memories. And one thing that I've learned too is like, when people have memories of things, even if other people are involved, like my memory may be different from their memory. Like me and my cousin, back in the day, playing at Granny's house, playing I Go See. I may have the memory one way, but she may have it a little bit of a different way because it's from our own perspectives and we're paying attention to different things, so we might pick up on something that the other person didn't pick up on. You know what I'm saying? So like, I don't know. They're just like, he didn't try to convince me that he wasn't wearing that. Maybe he was telling her like, you remember what I was wearing, right? She's like, yeah, I remember what you was wearing. And he's like, well, I was wearing X, Y, and Z, right? And she's like, no. But maybe he really thinks he was wearing. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? All these things, it just can't be like conclusive for me. I have questions. I'm famous for asking my husband the same question a million times. I don't remember. Jackie O says, yep, was watching Long Crime Network when Murdaugh was walking out. The camera followed him right past the jury. Yeah, they showed the jury. And I don't think they should have done that. John Meadows did a phenomenal job in closing. Yes, Vic, like, why would he say that? And why would he try to convince the other lady he was wearing something different? He did too many things that innocent people don't do. And see, there's things where I hear and I'm like, yeah, why would he do that? Or why didn't he do that? Surely he's got to be guilty. But I'm like, was I convinced beyond a reasonable doubt? I don't think I was. Because there's still like some evidence that there could have been two perpetrators. Yeah. I mean, if one of my family members died and I felt like law enforcement might look at me for it, I'd be concerned with my alibi. You know what I'm saying? But if I was going to do it, I would try to make damn sure my alibi made sense. Or I would hire somebody and I'd have an airtight alibi. I wouldn't be with my mom who has a memory disease. I can't think of what it's called. But literally, someone said this in somebody's chat the other day, and I was like, that makes so much sense. Every movie you ever watch, if it's a murder for hire, they make darn sure they're out of town, but out and about. They're with multiple people. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, okay, I don't think he can pull the trigger. I don't think he could. I just don't think he could. He's too much. I don't think he could. So he hired someone, but he's a daggone prosecutor. He wouldn't know he needs an airtight alibi, and he didn't have one. So that's where it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't think he's capable of doing it himself. And there's a lot of a lot of things that makes it look like it could have been two people and not one. I mean, who goes and kills people and uses two different weapons? I mean, imagine he kills one of them first, and then he's got to run and grab another weapon and shoot. You know what I'm saying? Like, holy, I guess to make it look that way. I don't know. I'm just so confused about this. But who would hope random family guns would be there to use? Thank you, Tammy. That's one of the things where I'm like, okay, so if somebody showed up to kill them, they would have brought their own guns, right? Was it ever proven without a shadow of a doubt that it was their guns? And then you have mothers killing their children. Who in the chat feels like they were convinced beyond a reasonable doubt? If you feel like you were convinced beyond a reasonable doubt and you were a member of the jury and you could sit there and say guilty, put a 1 in the chat. If you feel like you just still have questions, okay, it wasn't proven that it was those guns. Because I'm like, they never found the murder weapons, did they? Too many stories that he made it obvious he was trying to get people to say different and wear his clothes. He didn't know Maggie was going to tell her he wanted Paul to come home. Okay, so the family owned the same type of guns. Because I'm like, if they never found the murder weapon, how can they be sure that that was the family gun? I don't know, y'all. I'm flabbergasted. I'm confused. I'm stressed about it because I'm confused. I don't know. I need a sign, God. Tell me. Tammy, you have a point. Unfortunately, I didn't watch it at all. Didn't watch it all, but the bit I know led me more to that he was guilty, but not by what the court said, per se. Yeah. Mama of 3 says 2, but I still believe he was involved somehow. Tammy says, Watts killed his family for less. Didn't want a divorce and be the bad guy. True that. Okay, Candy says they matched casings with casings around the property from what I remember. Mrs. FSU, 0 proof the family guns. They have never been located. Flower Girl says, this ain't nothing but karma. I hate when we all know families can do no wrong and treated differently by the law. I'm glad he was finally caught. There's a family here in my town like that. They're very rich. They own a lot of the stuff here, the pharmacy, the grocery store, the football field at our school. You know, I mean, and, you know, they can get away with whatever. Adrian says, oh, he was definitely involved somehow. Stephanie says, I felt he was guilty, but I thought we would get a hung jury. See, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking hung jury. I definitely didn't think we would have a not guilty, but I didn't think he would have a guilty. I thought hung jury because I just didn't feel like it was proven. 5 people dead linked to the Murdaugh case. Is it 5? Yeah, Stephen, Gloria, Mallory, which I called her Madison last night, and I apologize so much for that. I don't know how I called her Madison, but Mallory, and then Paul and Megs. No one won in this case. That one mama says, I mean, I definitely think he was involved, but as far as being the trigger man, I don't know. Did they test him to see if he had gunpowder residue? They did. They tested him to see if he had a GSR, and he did not have gunpowder residue. And the clothes that he was wearing did not have any gunpowder residue, or that's why they're saying he would have had to have completely changed and showered, because he had not a speck. So in a matter of minutes, he would have had to have. So in the Snapchat video, we hear them talking, everything's fine. Oh, he's got a guinea. No, it's a. I love the Southern accent. I love Maggie's voice. Oh, it's a guinea. You know, no, it's a chicken. You know, so in a matter of like everything being fine, the guinea, the chicken, he got out 2 guns, shot one, shot the other one, went and rinsed off, got Maggie's phone, went back to the house, took a shower, changed, called Maggie's phone in the process for, you know, so he could call her, and then leave and get to Alameda. Like, it was like minutes that he had to do all these things. So I'm like, that's a lot. And then he had to be completely covered from head to toe, wearing something. So that's another thing is he would have had to have whatever he would have been having to wear like something covering him. I don't think so, Candy. Does anybody know if the tarp had GSR? They never found a tarp. They found a raincoat, but I don't think the raincoat was found to have. See, Southern Charmer, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, did Cousin Eddie do it? And two, you know they had a bomb threat called in? He had a bomb threat called in? No, I said he had a bomb threat called in. No, a bomb threat was called in. What's so funny, though, is there's a TikTok of when Alex's attorney leaned over and told him that someone called in a bomb threat. And Alex, like, smiled. Like he knew it was coming. Yeah. So, the house, his mom's sitter said that Alec came in with a tarp, with a blue tarp. They got a search warrant, searched the house, could not find a tarp. They only found a blue raincoat. So they showed her a picture of the raincoat and was like, did it look like this? And she was like, yeah, I think so. The bomb threat was going, what? No. What kind of prisoner? Because first off, don't you know those jailhouse phone calls are taped? Yeah, so Shelly called it a tarp. That's what she said she saw him bringing in. But they didn't find a tarp. They found a raincoat, a blue raincoat. I think these days people are capable of killing whomever, whether related or not. Some people are. I mean, we see it all the time. It's just sick. He changed clothes. Yeah, he had to have. But that's the thing is, whatever he went down there in had to be something covering the majority of his body. And I don't know, but if Sean walked up on me and all I could see is his eyes, you know, I'd be like, what are you doing? Why are you wearing all that? And then he had normal conversation, and then bam, shoot one, which we don't even know who was shot first. There's confusion on that. grab a different gun, shoot the other one, and then take all that stuff off, where maybe he had clothes on underneath. You know, maybe say he had the raincoat on and maybe some sort of something covering this part of him. Strip all that off, have something underneath, maybe what he had on, I don't know. But still in the process of taking that off and like rolling it up, you're going to be holding it like this. Get the guns, get Maggie's phone, and it's going to touch your clothes that you have on now. So you run the risk, because this was a messy situation. They said whoever killed them would absolutely have gunpowder residue on them, as well as blood, like probably lots of it on their shoe, like on their bottom of their shoes, on their hand, like it would have splattered all over them. So if he did it, it would have got all over him. If he had something on, he would have had to take it off, like roll it up, but then hold it where maybe the residue or the blood could have got on his clothes. So maybe that did happen. He ran in the house. He showered just to be sure, took those clothes off, rolled them all up, put them in a garbage bag, called Maggie's phone in the process, go grab the guns, you know, and then go hide them somewhere. But the thing is they watched his phone and his truck from when he left the property. He didn't dip off anywhere. He didn't stop on the side of the road. He went straight to his parents' house, you know, and then come straight back later, you know, that night. They looked at the property. So where is the guns? Where's the clothes that he had on? I just don't know. There's just too many things that don't make sense to me. Yeah, he's been attorney for a long time. All it takes is one person to have a hung jury. But they did find gunpowder residue on the tarp that he took to his mom's. They think the guns may have been in that. See, did they? Because I didn't know they did. Did they find gunpowder residue on the tarp? Because I didn't think that they. Now I gotta double check that. I know some people were saying that they believed that raincoat was the dad's, Randolph's. He was going to have almost just as much time for financial crimes. Yeah. Is there a way you can play the TikTok video I sent you a few days ago? Was it on Messenger that you sent it to me? Yeah. I can play that. Let me get over here. That's the thing is, if he did it, and you know how they say Paul's like a little detective? He was like his own detective in his own murder. So that's another thing is they could not really pinpoint what time the murders happened. They could not tell if it was like 9. They said it was between 9 and 9:30, but they go by like the temperature outside and your body temperature. And the best way to check that is rectal temperature. And the guy that checked it did an arm temperature, which the coroner said makes no sense because your underarm is just would not make sense. It would not tell anything when trying to establish the time of death. But from what he said when when he gets to a crime scene, he puts a thermometer out kind of close to the body or whatever. He said if there's thermometers out and about, he don't even look at them. He puts his own thermometer out, and then he will check the rectal of the body because your core temperature is like 98.6 degrees. Every degree, it drops a degree like every 30 minutes or something like that. But he said, if you're like under a stressful situation or if you're outside working and it's hot, your temperature is going to rise a little bit. He said, like me, I'm on the stand testifying. So my temperature is probably not 98.6 degrees. It might be a little warmer because I'm on the stand testifying in a murder trial. He said that could throw it off by like 30 minutes. If my core temperature is just like a little bit, you know, I want to say risen, if it's rose high, a little bit higher, if it's just a little bit higher, that can change the time by 30 minutes. So you can get a lot done in 30 minutes. See, Adrian says, but he drove really fast. But according to his attorney afterwards, he didn't drive really fast. He drove the same speed there that he did back. And they're like, if he was trying to drive fast to hurry up to get to his mom's to help with his alibi, then why did he drive just as fast on the way back? It seems like he would have drove slower. You know what I'm saying? And they said the same. He drove the same speed there as he did back. So it didn't really make sense that they're saying, oh, he's trying to like help his alibi by hurrying up and getting to his mom's. Be like, oh, he was here at this time, you know. But he drove the same speed on the way back. So they're like, if he's trying to help his alibi, he would have stayed at his mom's longer or drove slower. Like, he drove the same speed back. So we hear him on the Snapchat video. The coroner said they believe that they died between 9 and 9:30. So the Snapchat video was taken at like 8:49. Was it 8:49? 8:49, 8:52, something like that. So he would have had to say 9 o'clock. 8:49, I mean, no time at all, right? No time at all. 8:52, I think that was maybe another time. No time at all. I mean, it would be impossible. But he said 9 to 9:30. Say it was 9:30. He had more time. He would have enough time to have walked back, rode back up to the house, got his vehicle, and left. Call back and say, I'm leaving. But because the coroner did not really check a legit way of checking his temperature, it could have been 10. And then he absolutely would have had time. Candy, I'm going to look that up because I'm curious as well. No, O.J. Simpson didn't. O.J. better stay out of this. Okay, Jenny Weiss says, guys, it was confirmed he was at the scene 4 minutes prior to the shootings. But that's the thing, is nobody can tell us what time the shootings happened. I've watched enough of the trial to know that. To know that there was never a confirmed time. The time of the shootings could range anywhere from 9 to 9:30 to even 10. So that's why I'm saying there's too many unanswered questions. Not on the raincoat. Where am I reading that at? Not on the tarp for the raincoat. Wait, I'm so confused. Not on the raincoat. Randolph could have. No, Randolph was in the hospital. I don't think anybody's saying Randolph done anything. He was in the hospital dying. I mean, no way. Let's see. This guy really did make it seem impossible for him to do it. I'm gonna look that up real quick. He had some solid talking points. I'm just so confused. I'm so confused. But that's the thing. Like, even the part of me that's like, well, surely he did it. I'm like, but there's still too many unanswered questions. And as a member of the jury, I just could not have convicted. I would have been a hung jury. I know, Jenny. It is fortunate that he did record and get his dad's voice on there. Just at the very least, we know his dad was there. All right, the video is unavailable. I just went to look for the video. It's unavailable. Why? The video is unavailable. He had some great points. Oh my God. I don't remember what they were, but. All right. What poncho style raincoat was very large? If he wasn't guilty, we would have the clothes he had on during the video. But that's the thing too, is like he's staying all over the place. I'm like, clothes that I wore. I mean, my God. Sean has been looking for this Huggy that he bought me. And he's convinced that our daughter wore it off somewhere. And I'm like, it's here somewhere. I doubt my daughter wore it off somewhere. But he left that night. He didn't stay there. He packed a bag and he wore, the clothes that he had on to his brother's house. He packed. He would go back to the house and get clothes as possible. He could have, you know what I'm saying? Like, everything that somebody brings up to me, I'm like, well, this? So then I'm just rationalizing it to where I'm like, I need a solid on that for me to say, well, I think he did it. I'm like, I can't say that he did. If the video Paul recorded never came out, do you think Alec would have came clean and said he lied and was actually there? No. If that video, no. I think he would have been like, I wasn't there. The only reason he had to say he was there is because his voice was on there, and then everybody that was put on the stand, his family, even Buster was like, is that your daddy's voice? Yep. His brother, was that your brother's voice? Yep. I mean, he would have never admitted it. I watched about 93% of the trial. Love and miss the verdict. I'm hurt. It was guilty. It was guilty. Yeah. His parents' land is that big too. I was referring to his parents' property when he went to Alameda. Is it possible when he went to his mom's, he went somewhere on the property and not sure how big it is and ditched the firearms and clothes, stashed the coat in the upstairs where it was found? I guess. Sure. I think. Yeah, Southern Charmer says, I drive 70, 80 on back roads all the time. Honestly, I used to too before I had kids. Like to work, I would drive like, I look down and catch myself going like 75. I'm like, whoop, reel it in. Too fast, too furious. So the blood would have had to gotten on him from supposedly checking the pulse. That too. He said he checked the pulse. And he said, though, he's like, well, I did have a little blood on my fingertips, but I ain't seen none. I feel it will one day be found, maybe many years from now. Let's say the Alameda land, Moselle, or the Alameda land gets sold, developed. Oh, parents, construction, oh yeah, stuff like that has happened before. Shannon, the video that you sent me is no longer available. Steffi says, I watched the whole trial and I'm not convinced he's guilty. Several people that say they watched the whole trial said they could not be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt. No, the housekeeper did not pick the clothes up off the floor. Casey, I'm not convinced in the slightest either. Absolutely believe that's what he was doing. The ATV at his mom's was also moving according to Shelley, so maybe so. Maybe he did put him out there on the property. I wonder if he would leave him out there after all this. Miss FSU, yes, you're right. It was searched, but could be anywhere on that land. If it's a large area or has a pond, those clothes and firearms are somewhere. Maybe they will be found someday. Buster was in Columbia area. Well, that's kind of offensive. Jen Y says, can't always get a solid, but common sense should kick in. Please take no offense. Well, the thing is that's the way our justice system works. You are to be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt. That's not me making it up. And I'm saying I wasn't convinced beyond a reasonable doubt because there's still too many questions that I don't have answers to. While the bigger part of me is saying, surely he did it. And I was convinced before I started listening to the trial. It's not about common sense to me. It's just there's questions that are unanswered. I have a lot of common sense, and it is kicking in, telling me there's unanswered questions. It's offensive. I mean, you could easily say, you know, you can't always get a solid answer, but you just take what you could get. And, you know, saying common sense should kick in, please take no offense, is offensive, girl. To me, I'm saying my common sense is telling me if the experts are saying whoever did it should be covered in clothes and GSR, but Alec wasn't. They tested the clothes that he had on that night. He wasn't. No GSR on him. No blood on him. There are experts saying that there were two perpetrators who were about this height. There were two different weapons. The weapons were not found. There's just so many questions. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying for me, myself, I wouldn't want to. Here's the thing. He's going to jail anyways for his crimes, for his financial crimes. And I know, like me and my husband was talking the other day on the way to my son's dental appointment, right? I mean, that's the law. You need to be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt. The judge instructs you of that. You need to be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt. Ain't that what they instruct them? To me, I wouldn't need a video, or everybody's like, well, he was on video, you know, he was on the Snapchat 4 minutes before. That was not proven. It was actually proven that they could have been killed an hour after that. It was said by the top coroner, who said the coroner that worked the scene tested the armpit, which is not even a way that you test. You know, you don't even, the coroner's like, when he was asked, he was like, how do you test to get time of death? And he says, you know, I hate these shows that make it look like you can get an exact time of death. You can't. You can get a rough estimate. And he said, well, the coroner that came on scene checked the armpit to get an estimated time of death. How does that give you an estimated time of death? The expert coroner says it doesn't. I mean, this man teaches classes now. He's like top game, you know. He's like, that does nothing. It doesn't tell you anything. So the coroner that worked the scene said between 9 and 9:30, but we don't know that now. And I'm like, I respect everybody's opinion that says he's guilty. I'm like, I'm so glad you got the clarity. Because I'm sitting over here like, oh, I don't, you know. And I'm not going to be like, I'm not going to tell someone, well, how can you be convinced? It was common sense tell you it wasn't proven. I would never say that, you know. And I'm okay with the jury, you know. I'm okay with the fact that the jury feels like they were convinced beyond a reasonable doubt. I'm saying I wasn't. I'm saying I wasn't. And there's a lot of people in the chat that weren't either. And like I said, I didn't watch all of it. So the way they get the temperature is they bring a thermometer, or the guy said I usually get one from fire and rescue because they usually have some. You sit one out by the body to test the air, the temperature of the area, and then you check rectal because your core temperature is 98.6 degrees, right? Your core temperature is 98.6 degrees. So you want to figure out what the temperature is. Say the temperature is 72 degrees. Your core temperature has dropped because when you die, your core temperature drops and you get colder. So your core temperature was 98.6 degrees. But if you were outside working, the defense also gave another great theory too, that in my opinion, in the video, or I think it was the video, they showed that the water hose was down. I think they said the water hose was down. And you know, everybody was like talking about the water hose was down and there was water everywhere. Maybe he washed off out there. But in the video, it was already down. Was it already down in the video? Or there were pictures where it was down? Or something. There was no video where it was down. So they think maybe before Alec got out there, because also they would take stuff like the feed and stuff out of the kennels and put them on top of the kennel. And like stuff, the feed was out of the kennel on top of the kennel. So it looked like someone had washed out the dog kennels, right? They got the hose, unwrapped it, washed out the dog kennels. and had not had time to put the feed back into the kennels. And maybe Paul went into the feed room, put his cell phone down because it was dying. It didn't have a lot of battery. So he put his thing down, got the stuff to clean the kennels, out of the feed room, whatever, go back out there, put the feed up on top of the thing, sprays the feed room down, the kennels down, and goes back in, gets his phone, and then at some point after that, they're killed, and that's why it's wet out there and stuff. Yeah, my thing's like, we can agree to disagree, but I would never be like, well, common sense should tell you this, because so many people have different opinions based off what they've heard, or, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, just like the Casey Anthony case. We all know she did it, but the prosecution dropped the ball and didn't prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. Exactly. I mean, to be honest, I thought the prosecution did a way better job of the Casey Anthony case. And I thought the prosecution definitely proved it way better in the Casey Anthony case than in this case. So I'm just like me, myself. If I was on the jury, could I say I was convinced? No, I couldn't. I couldn't, but I want to look up about the raincoat that was found. Okay, so this was put out February 7th. It says, days after the June 7, 2021 murders, Mr. Murdaugh allegedly turned up at his parents' house, cradling a bundled up blue something in his hands. My mind's already going with this. Gunshot residue was found all over the mystery blue raincoat that Alec Murdaugh allegedly hid at his parents' home in the days after his wife and son were shot dead. I think I have too much, because I'm like, 3 hours, Anna. It's 3 hours. Because now with this, it's like, okay, gunshot residue was all over that. But I'm like, one of the boys said that they thought that it was the dad's raincoat. And they all hunted. And a lot of times when you're hunting, you hunt in winter months. And it might rain. And if it's raining, you wear a raincoat. And if you're hunting and you shoot something, you might have, I'm just like, see? I'm like, I don't know. There's too many things. I'm like, well, this can make sense for this to, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. I need to watch the trial. I don't know if I'll ever have time to watch the whole trial, but I need to get some more clarity. Yeah, but Paul and Maggie were dead, so doubt it was them that put the hose back. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't that night. Right, Candy. I don't think it was that night that she brought it over. I think it was, Shelly said it was some days later. B says, will you be live for the sentencing? Yes, I'll go live for the sentencing. But why did AM bring it to his house at his mom's? I don't know. And maybe it was his and he shot him and it was all over it. They should have been made go back 3 hours is BS to me. That's not enough time to look at everything. That's what I think. I'm so glad y'all have the chat slow. Thank you. I can actually read and participate without getting dizzy. Y'all, I'm just like, Southern Charmer says, I'll be on the next jury. LOL. It was never connected to AM. Except by Shelly. Shelly said she saw him bring it in. Alex said he don't remember. But I'm like, if you eaten 100 oxys, you ain't gonna remember. Is that 9:30 your time, Elle? I don't think so. What time is it? Okay. Southern Charmer, what time is it at your house right now? I'm just like, I don't know. Okay, it'll be 8:30 my time then? Oh, that's early. I'll do it. Yeah, we'll go live and watch the sentencing. I need, like, if he didn't know what happened, why would he have lied about being there? That's another question. But liars don't make you murderers. You know? My friend used to lie so bad. Oh, that's the thing, is me and Sean was talking taking our son to the dentist the other day. And we're talking, and I'm like, man, that's basically like if my friend would have got arrested back in the day for murder because she was really bad on drugs and lied to people and stole from people. Therefore, she did it. She murdered him. But I'm like, there's nobody that convinced me that my friend would ever kill anybody. No matter how many drugs she did, I just don't think she could do it. You know what I'm saying? So me and Sean were talking, and he's like, well, he lied, and he this, and he that. And I'm like, so do you think if Tanya, when she was real bad off on drugs, if somebody in Tanya's family would have came up dead and they said Tanya did it, do you think Tanya would have done it? And he was like, no, not at all, And I was like, see, just because he lied and he was a thief doesn't make him a murderer. I mean, just think, addiction runs, everybody knows somebody that's an addict. The longer someone's in their addiction, the worse they get with things. Like, obviously lying, then they start running out of money, so they start having to steal money from people, or borrow, then steal, and then steal things to sell to get, Okay, so think yourself. Do you know someone that has had a problem with drugs to the point that they lied and stole? Okay, think of that person in your mind. Now, if you were called tonight and said this person killed their mom and brother, or their husband and or wife, or their child, you'd be like, what? And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, they're a liar. They lied about, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Yeah, Anna says, I was a huge liar when I was addicted to drugs. That's a good point, Candy. It's what he lied about, though. What a crucial thing to lie about, especially if you're innocent. I don't know what to think. That's a good point. So he lied about the fact that he was down there. But I'm like, maybe that was because he didn't want to be. He's like, maybe he thought, oh, God, if I was near the scene right before it happened, maybe they would. He said he would get paranoid a lot. And it's kind of like the situation right now with Ryan Edwards, who is like going through like this like paranoia situation with his soon-to-be ex-wife now. He thinks she's cheating on him. Alex said, like, if the cops got behind me, I'd have this moment of like paranoia. Or like, oh God, they're going to pull me over and I got drugs on me, So maybe when this happened, he just wanted to disconnect himself from being down there. Because if he told them, well, I was down there, but I left, then maybe it might make them suspicious. I don't know. There's so many, every time somebody says something, like this pops up in my head. I'm like, well, what about this? What about that? I don't know, y'all. I'm struggling. The accidental slip and fall situation where his maid happened to have a $10 million life insurance policy. She did not have a $10 million life insurance policy. Gloria Satterfield did not have a $10 million life insurance policy. And Alec Murdaugh was not at the house when that happened. Now, I think it's sketchy too, and I think he went into the hospital when she was in ICU and stuck something in her IV and killed her. I think he's behind that one. But Gloria Satterfield did not have a $10 million policy. Gloria Satterfield did not have life insurance at all, from my understanding. What happened, though, is Alec was at work, like 15, 20 minutes away. Paul, and Maggie was at the house, and Gloria Satterfield showed up. She was not working that day, from my understanding, but she showed up. And they said she tripped going up or down 8 steps. Alex said that she told him she tripped over the dogs. But I don't know how she would have told him that, because in the 911 calls, Maggie and Paul said she was not able to speak. She was like mumbling, but she was incoherent, basically. So what happened, though, she shows up at the house to visit whatever, I don't know, maybe to collect her paycheck, I don't know. A fall happens, but Alec was not there. He was at work. They call 911 because she hits her head, bleeding out of her left ear. And they call Alec too, and he comes home, but he wasn't there. And then Alec did tell her boys. Now, she went into the hospital. She went into the hospital, went into ICU, and she was not well for a few days, but then she started doing better. I think Alex saw that maybe as an opportunity, like, oh, dang, she was near death. I thought she was going to die. If she would have died, I could have convinced her boys to sue my homeowner's insurance, and I could have got them a settlement, which I could have kept. So I think maybe his wheels went to turning, and maybe he went into the hospital and put something in her IV or something, because Gloria Satterfield's sister, and somebody, this irritates me when people do stuff like this, but in my Murdaugh documentary video, I mentioned how Gloria Satterfield's sister said that the last time she saw Gloria, she went to visit her in the hospital, and when she left, she said, "I'm going home, Gloria. I'll see you tomorrow. I love you." And Gloria said, "I love you too," right? So she had gotten better to the point of where she was able to talk. She died. After the sister leaves, sometime in the night, early morning hours, bam, dies. Even though she was on the up and up. So I, in my Murdaugh murder video, I mentioned that, and somebody left me a comment saying, "Oh my God, it's proven that Gloria was in a coma, like the whole time after the fall up until she died. If you're gonna do a video on something, do your research and know what you're talking about first," which I thought was really rude, because I'm like, dude, I research like you would not believe. Like, I have so many books upon books upon books, just full. I mean, my Murdaugh video was like almost like half a notebook full of notes for my script. That wasn't what I researched. That was, I had notes of research, and then I put it all together for a script that was like half a notebook for my script, right? So I researched the hell out of that story. And so when somebody says, "Do your research, know what you're talking about?" And then it had me double. I'm like, what? I know that's what I saw like many times watching the interview with the sister and Gloria Satterfield's two sons. I'm like, it was a Today interview. So then I had to go back and watch the interview just to double check. And then I went back and I left a comment saying, no, Gloria Satterfield was not in a coma before she died. She did talk to her sister on the last visit that her sister was there with her the night before she died. And then I linked the video to the interview, because I'm like, that's so rude, though, to say that. Yes, you did, Zuna. I do need a sponsorship for notebooks, because I go through them like you wouldn't even believe. But I just thought it was so rude for somebody to say, like, "Oh my God, know what you're talking about," when at the end of the day, that person had the wrong information. But did that person feel like she was spreading misinformation on purpose? Or did that person really think they had the... So even if I do somehow give the wrong information because I trust a faulty site, or, even if I do, I'm not going to spread misinformation on purpose. It would absolutely be because I read a site that's not as credible as maybe I thought it was. And what a person could say, though, is, "Hey, Gloria was in a coma after she accidentally fell until she died. Just want to make sure you have the right information." To be like, "Oh my God, if you're going to talk about this, make sure you have the correct information." And then they didn't have the correct information. But I wasn't rude to them back. I was just like, hey, I put a lot of time and effort into this video. Like, I spent days researching this family. And I watched the clips several times of the sisters saying X, Y, and Z. Here's the link. Go check it out. But it's just, yeah, people can be so rude. Judy Weiss's Buster is next, the murder of Stephen Smith. And we haven't got to the housekeeper yet. Yeah, they're reinvestigating Stephen. And they're supposed to exhume Gloria Satterfield's body. So, yeah. Do we think the sentencing will take long? So I went to Josh Duggar's sentencing, you guys. And it took all day. It took, people can read victim impact statements. I mean, it's a process. So it could start at 8:30 and go on until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Ours did. Oh, and they said something at the press conference that I wanted to talk about that I saw at Josh Duggar's case, but I don't remember what it was. Hey, storms are here. I know, the Murdaugh mysteries are far from over. I know. No, definitely no, because Josh Duggar's sentencing started at 9 o'clock that morning, and we didn't get out of it until like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There's so much that went into it. Like, people can read victim impact statements. The judge gives a whole rundown. The defense gets to speak. The prosecution gets to speak. They give Josh Duggar had the opportunity to speak. It's a lot. And they tell you this code that they have to go off of, and this score sheet they have to go off of, and it's a lot. Yeah. Seems like Buster was everybody's favorite. Yeah. Gloria, they said Gloria was like Paul's second mom. There is rumors that Buster and Stephen had a relationship and that the Murdaughs are responsible for his death. But I've never heard who specifically. I mean, so when you think of it that way, and I haven't heard who, it makes me think, so maybe Alec heard about the relationship and was like, oh no, that ain't happening, and killed the boy. Maybe Stephen told Buster that he was going to go public with their relationship, and Buster was like, oh no, that ain't happening. Maybe Buster went to Paul and was like, I did it with this guy, and he said he's going to tell, and Paul's like, that ain't happening. I don't know. Maybe they went to cousin Eddie. I don't know, What if the other son is really the killer? Well, he was out of town when his mom and his brother were killed. Anyone know why there was an officer that went and stood behind Buster right before the verdict was read? Yeah, I noticed that. A female officer, right before the verdict was read, she went and stood behind him, and when he started crying, she like tapped him, and it looked like she was asking him if he was okay. But I saw that. The jury didn't buy the defense's story that their rogue 5'2" rogue vigilante, I can't use that word, running around South Carolina killing people with Alec Murdaugh's guns. They didn't buy it. They did not buy it. Maybe in case he acted out. Maybe in case he passed out. I don't know. Maybe they were thinking he would act dumb. Yes, Misty, he is guilty. Guilty on all counts. So, you guys, we will reconvene tomorrow, 8:30 my time. Yeah, Buster had already been reprimanded for flipping Tinsley off. Now, I know I did a video on that, and I had several comments saying he wasn't flipping. And I went back and watched it, and I'm like, hold up, that ain't a cold case of flipping nobody off. Because when he was like, and I'm a nail biter. Well, I'm not anymore, but I used to be a nail biter bad, especially when I'm nervous. Here I am. I'm making excuses for what makes sense, Can something else make sense? I guess really you could do that with anything. But I went back and watched it, and he was doing this. Which I used to do that all the time. You want to know something crazy? I have 3 kids that used to point like this. Like, they'd be like, Mama, can you grab my pencil up there? And they, from an early age, like, from the time that they could talk, they would point like that. They'd be like, Mama, give me my, and I would have to be like, no, don't use that finger. Like, 3 of my kids did that. I don't know why. I don't know why they didn't point normal, but they would point with their middle finger. I don't even know. But I used to be a nail biter, and I would definitely be like, ah. So when I first heard, like, oh my God, Buster flipped the court, Buster flipped somebody. I'm like, what? Yeah, and he was moved seats back. I did a video on it, I went back and watched, and I was like, well, he did not. Because I'm thinking Buster flipped somebody off. I'm thinking he was like this. You know what I'm saying? But it was more, if he was trying to do that, to me, it was like he did it in a way where you can't say that he did for sure. You know what I'm saying? It's like questionable, which is what that family is about. That family is like, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to make it questionable, where you can't say for sure. And I'm sick of this. I'm sick of this. Yes, the sister gave him a book. But they confiscated it, and he may be charged for that. Yeah, Lisa, we did. We had Eli, Bobby, and Kennedy all pointed with the bird. Like when reading, be like, no, 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 no. Who's that drug test? Who did they drug test? Alec, did he fail? When did they drug test him? Oh, she got reprimanded as well. People are saying now Mallory can rest in peace. I mean, I think from the time that, Paul, he died. You know, he was the one. I guess because Alec did try to kind of get over on that. Yeah. Oh, wow. They drug tested him after the sister gave him a book. Wow. That's wild. Anyways, you guys, we will reconvene here in the morning at 8:30. And I may come on Fresh Face and do my makeup while we're watching. I don't know. Normally, I will try to do makeup. I will try to go live on Facebook and do my makeup with the people that follow me on Facebook. But I might do that here just because, Lord, that's early. That's early. Yeah, she definitely should have gotten in trouble. They just made her move back, which, take it off. I don't know. Anyways, you guys, leave me your thoughts in the comment section below. If you are like solid sold, he did it, let me know why. If you want to call me crazy because I'm just like, I think he did it, but I didn't feel convinced through what we know. Give me your thoughts. Just don't call me like mean names because there's no reason to do that here, okay? We're all nice. We all respect each other's opinions, and we don't try to get rude with each other because we respect everybody's opinions. So give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Meet us back here in the morning at 8:30. I'm going to go ahead and set the stream in a little bit. So in like 20 minutes, come back and check here, and you'll see that the stream is set. I think you can actually hit like a reminder button to be reminded in the morning that I'm going live. That way, in case the notifications aren't sent out, you'll at least get that reminder, hopefully. So give me a little bit. I'll get that set. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the morning. Bye, everyone.